Hi, I'm David Levin. I will represent the conservative view on this show, and this is April Freeman.
Hi, and I'll represent the Democratic view, whether it's conservative or moderate. I'm not always that liberal.
Today we have the mayor of Cape Coral, Marni Sawicki, will be joining us, and next week will be Michael Drycorn.
We're real excited about our show, and I'm glad you tuned in to watch.
Yeah. We'll be talking about issues, policy, politics, government, and the reason we chose coffee and bacon for this show, I'll let April explain that.
Well, when people talk about politics, they talk about pork. But we like bacon better, so we're coffee and bacon. And
It's not kosher, though.
Not kosher, but I'll eat kosher on my deathbed. So, welcome to Coffee and Bacon.
We're here with the mayor of Cape Coral, Marni Sawicki. Marni, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Marty.
Yeah.
No problem.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm 45, just turned. We were laughing about April turning, 50-ish.
50-ish.
And I go off 40-ish, 50-ish, 60-ish now. So, yeah, 2 kids, divorced mom of 2. I have my own company, so I do marketing and strategic planning. And also was hired as the executive director of the Manufacturing Association. So,
Yeah, so what brought you to Cape Coral?
the sun.
Of course, it's
I could have lived anywhere. My ex-husband worked from home as well, so we chose Cape Coral based on a number of things. First of all, from Michigan, everybody travels and everybody's vacation is on the side of Florida. So I love from Venice all the way down, and so we started looking at best places to live, safest cities. Cape Coral ranks number 2. We're one of the best school systems. You get here, you feel like it's a small town, and yet it's 165,000 people. So,
And now you're the mayor of that town.
Right.
And there's some big projects coming up.
it's a very big project.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the Bimini Basin project?
Sure. This is a project that's actually been for 20 years. People have talked about this project. They've talked about what are we gonna, we want to take the Rubicon Canal right there by Four Freedoms Park, take that out, connect it, make it a water, live, work, play. And we have a great way of getting in our own way in Cape Coral. And so I think the timing just was never there. And then the economy kind of tanked. So when someone showed me the plans of that, it's truly something that I think would be a great place for us to have a gathering, if you've ever been to Miami, I know you have.
Yeah.
They've got a place down there, and I can't think of the name exactly. It's an outdoor mall. And if you're there at 9 a.m. or midnight, you've got people in strollers, you've got, senior citizens, you have children who are out there loitering like they should outside of Starbucks and Cold Stone Creamery.
A diverse group of people.
Very, and I want that for our city, because right now when we say, I'll see you Friday, that could mean 50 different places. I want to be able to say, see you Friday, and know that means down at Bimini Basin or down at some place that we have in the community. So, it was just I went to the Mayor's Institute for the Endowment of the Arts. It's a U.S. Conference of Mayors out in San Antonio, and the project I brought was, how do we make the CRA district, how does it look like, how do we make it look like we've done something, like that we're moving forward? So my planners brought forth, park benches, and how do we make the outdoor, bar areas all look, like they're all kind of meeting and connecting. And I took that, and they kind of laughed at me. First thing, they had all these planners, 7 of them from all over the United States, one of them being Mitchell Silver, who's the new Parks Commissioner for New York City. And he said, wait a minute. 400 miles canal, you're on the water, and your downtown has no water. And I said, that would be correct. And he said, yeah, that's not going to work. And so we pulled up Google Maps, he pulled it out, and he said, what is this little area? I said, well, that's Bimini Basin. And he said, that's your new downtown. and that is where you need to be focusing. So USF came out, they did their charrettes about a month ago. They'll be back on the 17th to actually present. We had 42 stakeholders from the community. Anyone that had any type of, from the Sunset Towers to some of the condos to the developers and other community leaders. And they kind of came up with 6 different visions of what they'd like to see. We'll come back on the 17th. They'll have 2 different visions. One probably, I'm going to guess, without the canal taken out, one with. But I did, on a real positive note, we had the Army Corps of Engineers down yesterday. And I took them to Bimini, and I've been told forever and ever, we will never get this done. Army Corps won't let us dredge anymore. You know, we can't do any more canals. And that's not true. He's like, this is an upland. It's there's no problem with this. I don't see where we would have any problem.
Well, that's fantastic news.
Yeah, and he's like, once we get the application, it's 15 days. Take it to public input, 21 days of public input, and then we will just grant your permit, and you can go through the DEP and everything else. But 13 months, it's not like a ton of time. So
no,
that was
not.
Really good. He said, no endangered species. We'd have to look for the sawtooth. Make sure there's nothing there, but other than that, no, it's good. So that was pleasant, because we always seem to say what we can't do without backing it up. So I just called when I went to Washington, met with the head of the Army Corps of Engineers for Florida, and he's like, let me get you in contact with the colonel, have him come out and take a look. And he said, you'll have a nice little river walk down here. I said, yes, we will.
That's going to be great.
Yeah, so it's about bringing in tourism dollars. We can't continue with a 92% tax base of residential and really think we're going to do something. And with our pre-platted and zoning, I know during my campaign I talked a lot about bringing in development, bringing in business. There's a lot of things that need to take place prior. I mean, while we are still bringing it in, there's a lot of things we need to do to change some of the legislation and stuff so that we can make it easier. Infrastructure is another thing. We don't even have infrastructure in like the Zemel properties, or some of those areas that we needed to bring in manufacturing and tech companies. So we're going to work on that this upcoming year.
And I have to say, I really love the fact that you're Maryland and Cape Coral, because you are so transparent about everything that you're doing. You come out and talk about it, you go to events and you talk about it. I just recently started at the Civic Association where we were talking about things, and in the past, our most recent past mayor kept to himself. You barely saw him anywhere. He didn't talk about anything that he planned to do. And you talk about it and you follow through. And I just want to tell you how much I appreciate that as a resident.
That means a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And I'll continue that. I mean, I think that's what people want.
Yeah.
And I think the more, it's okay to make mistakes.
Right. Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
okay with saying that I made one. If I make one, I'll admit that. But I think it's important that we at least have that dialogue, and people know that you're a person and real, and
We talked about something that predates your office, which is the assessments that were rolled into people's tax bills this past year, reaching 2,000 plus in some cases. Do you have any words for them, those people who were affected?
Well, for one, it was voted in prior to me being there, but I did support it, and I support it because of the fact that with the ad valorem and being that it's 92% residential, that is our only source for the city. So when the economy tanked, everything tanked, it left us in a really bad position trying to provide city services. And so we gutted everything. And not only did we gut it, but the things like salaries, we took all these employees and took them away, said we can't afford them. And then on the flip side of that, we had the controls that went out the door as well. So how many chainsaws do you have? How much gas is going? How much? We had no one to be able to even determine that. So, it didn't help us as much as we thought it did. But revenue diversification will be that tool that'll help us when the times are not great with ad valorem, for us to be able to kind of shift that and make up the difference. Because at the end of the day, I don't like the assessments.
How about the LCEC and the city of Cape Coral? Can you tell some people who are outsiders who have no idea how the two interact?
First let me just say, it is interesting to watch people get sound bites from the news on that.
Right.
Our contract is up next year. We have to look at this. This is something I said during the campaign. I will look at the franchise agreement for LCEC. Unfortunately, with FP&L being mutual, they have an agreement with, that's where they,
It's a non-compete,
yeah,
isn't it?
LCC gets their, they can't quote us. So the only other option we have is to look at our own municipal electric company. So in order for us to have any leverage, for us to even know what we can and cannot do, this is a great exercise for the city to go through, to go, what would it take to have ours? What would we want to see? Because right now when we talk about LEDs, my big thing is LEDs, dark sky, making it, you know, energy efficient, bringing in some of the newer technology. LCEC in the past has not been very, you know, happy to talk about those things. Undergrounding. And a lot of people say, you know, well, oh, it's a feud between the city, and it's not a feud. This is business.
And they're elected, the board members of the LCEC?
Yes, they are.
Those are elections. They are, more or less. And do they get salary?
Yeah.
They get about $30,000 a year.
No kidding.
They put down 5 to 6 hours a week, but I think they have a couple meetings a month. But yeah, it's 30,000.
And then they travel just a little bit.
So it's about 30,000 a year, and that's okay. I mean, I don't. That's for that. But at the end of the day, I owe it to the residents. The city council owes it to the residents to say, you know, yes, we're getting a great deal, or no, it can be better this way. And net metering is another thing. You know, they'll you buy it at 13, or they sell it at 13 cents. They buy it back at 2. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be looked at in this agreement, and I think it should. And I think the city needs to look at, does it you know, hinder us in the economic development, and would having our own do that make it easier for us to, you know, bring those costs down. The problem is it's going to be a lot of money in the upfront, and I'm not comfortable with $500 million. But I know that if I didn't go down this path, what do you do? I mean, what do you say to LCEC? Please, you know, will you please put this in your contract? That's not, to me. I need to be able to go, here, you can either do this or we will do this. And with them being a co-op, it's kind of interesting because they've made it sound like with the stranded costs, we would end up paying for all the equipment. Well, we own it. As a resident, I pay it. As a, you know, it's ours. It's not a, you know, for-profit company. So would there really be any stranded costs? Or, you know, if I look at depreciation of, and actually what was paid in by this, for Cape Coral's 43% of their business, they've said that their rates will go up if we leave. Cape Coral's the only one that pays a franchise fee. You know, I'm sorry, but why would rates go up if it is exactly what they say is money goes in, money goes out? If they take us out of the equation, it should still work. So why is Cape Coral, why would us being out of this make it go up? It has to make you wonder, have we been subsidizing the rest of Marco Island and every one of their other, you know, servicing areas? So we're going to continue to look at it. I'm getting beat up over it, but I hope residents will just listen and say, okay, this is for our best interest. There will be plenty of time for public input. I expect this to be a 3 to 5 year you know, initiative. So much time for public input, but those that are telling us not to take a look at it are doing a disservice to their fellow residents.
So you say our contract ends next year. 3 to 5 years to implement another program of our own,
or theirs. Yeah, we could go on a year to year.
Okay, that was the question.
But the good thing about that contract was it does give us, the end of our 30 years, it gave us the option to purchase.
Okay.
And that is something that's not included in any future, you know, contracts for most companies. They reap the benefit for the 30 years, and now it's up for us to take a look at that option that we rightly gave them and paid for throughout these 30-year contract. We have the right to look at purchasing it, and it's just, you know, that's what we're going to do. So if we didn't do it, residents would be saying, look what they did, they just handed it over and they didn't even try. So we're in a no-win on this one, but except for, I think at the end of after it's all said and done, the residents will be the ones that win.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
Did Cape Coral just acquire 7 islands in some capacity?
No, actually that was part of the Teeman property, $13 million in land that they purchased a few years back during they got it at a great price. And so no, we're just now talking about developing it. So yeah, we're talking about water, sewer. What are we going to do? You know, do we want condos there? Again, I really feel like Cape Coral needs to go. We put an RFP out for a visioning process. We keep talking about what do we want to be when we grow up. I heard that when I first moved here. Well, it's time to figure that out. So we've got, hopefully we'll have a team come in and start working with all of the different communities, and we start looking at what do we want to be, and is that, you know, and that's the thing. It could be anything. We could be green, maybe we're 43% built out. What if we went green technology? What if we were that city that decided to show everybody else what it could do with, you know, renewable energy and whatnot? We're at a really good place, and I think, but I think it's going to take us asking the questions and asking residents what they want for us to put it down in a long-term, you know, time plan.
Right.
Or else we're going to continue saying every year we don't know what we want to be when we grow up, and it becomes fickle. And when you have elections, you know, every 2 years, priorities change and get lost. So I think it's important to get it down, get it solid. Here it is, and you either believe it and you buy into it, or you don't, and here you need to tell us why.
So what does Cape Coral want to be when she grows up? 20 years down the road, what's the future?
I mean, I want what the residents want, and that's, you know, I have my own opinion of what I'd like to see, and I'll definitely have my own input when the process happens. But this is one of those things that, and most things are. I represent the majority. I mean, I should say I represent all. The majority is what we, you know, obviously want to move towards doing the best for. So, honestly, the community needs to come up with that, and I think it's changing. I think it changes all the time, and I think that's where the conflicting problem is, because we were set up as a retirement home. Retirement community. And now, not a home, retirement community, and now we're 43 average age. So you know, it's changing a lot.
Joe Mazurkowitz recently called it the biggest gated community in Southwest Florida, or in Florida.
Big HOA.
Yeah, definitely. And it was retirement. So, you know, it's time, you know, younger people are having a voice. We have a younger council more than ever before. And the first woman mayor, which is so impressive. And it just shows that we're really going in the right direction. We're moving, progress is happening, and that's all good.
And you know, on that pay thing too, just so we talk about younger, diverse council, the charter review, every 5 years, they're put in place to take a look at our charter. So the pay situation that's coming out, that's just starting, you know, Wink News had a thing on it, talking about us wanting our pay raised. All of us knew what we were getting when we came into it. I don't think you'll hear any of us going, give me a pay raise.
Who doesn't want a pay raise?
Right.
Well, but I mean, I know what it's, there's good and bad to how much do you pay somebody. You know, you don't want somebody, for one, if you pay too much, they'll be in for the wrong reasons.
Right.
If you don't, but you pay too much but not enough, will you really attract the qualified that you really want? So I do believe we do need to increase it to allow for somebody to have a part-time job and not need to have a full-time on top of doing this, because this really is a full-time job, the way it should be done. As a single mom, I can tell you right now, I have to work a full-time job. If we paid something similar to Fort Myers, where they are at, I think we said 32, but I think it's 38 and 55. That's what Mayor Henderson had told me. That would allow for somebody just to have a part-time job on the side and do this main, because with the reading and the research and the
travel.
Yeah, but travel's not, that's okay, because I can at least read on it. Actually, I get more done when I travel. But answering the emails, I get probably 150, 200 emails a day, and I get written more than the rest of the council, because it's easier to just write your mayor than it is to figure out which one is your council member. So I end up, you know, all of the complaints on the grass and the whatever all come to me. I don't say all, but a lot of them do. So we need to be able to say, you know, not just retirees should be able to be there. We need to make it at least so that it looks like the city that we're becoming, which is more diverse than over 70. You know, I love that we have Richard Leon. You know, I love that we have even mine. I mean, it's the first time we've had a council that's not been over 70. That's a big deal. So.
Like Estero, who just elected all new representatives and councilmen over 70. So
they're in good hands over there.
Experienced hands. Is that what we're going to say?
What about the water issue? And there's several. You hear about Lake O and that, but you also have the BP oil spill, which, if you see it, the automatic claim zone is also includes Cape Coral for some economic loss claims. And what do you do to fix the water problem?
This is going to be an ongoing battle, because basically for the state, the problem is east versus west. I mean, you've got your east, it all kind of, the BP's separate, but the you know, the Okeechobee that's an issue where you've got adaptive protocols that the Army Corps will not change, and I don't know that they should. That's the thing. It's a very complicated discussion. You know, understanding all the backflow of how, when things come out, when do they release, when don't they. Army Corps will show you graphs going back 30 years that shows that it's doing exactly what it's supposed to. But we all know what our water looks like here.
Right.
And so and I did show them that yesterday, you know, and I came down, I said, I want to be able to be in it and not just on it. And he's like, oh, you can't get in it? I'm like, do you look
Do you want to go in that
look
water?
at that? And he's like, okay. I'm like, no, we don't want to go. But it used to be clear, and
It
you used to be able
right.
to see down. So those are issues, but there's federal grants, there's all kinds of things we can be doing as a city to look for ways and money to clean that up, but we have to be proactive about it. And this is the first time in a long time the city's actually stepped up with Councilmember Birch, all the council really, but Councilmember Birch and myself have been very active in the various you know, groups that we're involved in, trying to find that money, trying to get the adaptive. Mayor Ruane's been absolutely critical to this, but he does fight, you know, he is kind of against the Army Corps on changing the adaptive protocols, which, you know, we all know it's hard to do. It's hard to get him to do that. But in the times that we get too much water, it really is a problem. And we have the two problems. We don't get enough and we get too much. But the BP, I haven't heard much on that. I haven't had many. I know, you know, that money is there for them, but I don't know who's actually, you know, gone for that or said that it was that affected them that way.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to consider there. I mean, the future of Cape Coral, what you do in your office will echo for generations to come. So what is your one project? What do you want to be remembered for?
Oh God, there's so many. You know, I think at the end of the day, if I can help bring in tourism, if I can help pave the way for more business, we'll never be at 40%. We're not. I mean, if we get at 20, I'll be excited.
The golf course, Cape Coral. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, the golf course. You know, it's unfortunate we don't have the money to purchase that. It is overgrown. It has rodents. It is an eyesore. But I see that piece really as a part of the Bimini Basin. If you look at the map overall and you look at that area going up, it would be a beautiful park. It would be you know, take the Four Freedoms and put it there and then make like a linear park around it. You could do so much with it. You've got the Eagles, you know, you could have a viewing area. There's all kinds of things you do. But luckily the county is looking at changing the 2020 money and how that's dispersed and how we get funding. So I think that should be up for a vote within the next 4 weeks.
Oh, good.
And I plan to go speak at that. Because Cape Coral has never been able to really benefit from the 2020 because, as we know, Rosen Brothers came in and bulldozed everything. So there's nothing pristine, nothing untouched. But if they start including water quality and stormwater problems and things like that into that 2020 definition, then that golf course could very well meet that definition at that point, which then the county could help us purchase, which would be great. At that point, I would put that out with the RFP, with the Bimini Basin as the whole area, and see if a developer picks that up. That's what I would do with that. But I should say that I would keep still the county and the Four Freedoms, because I don't know, you probably know this, but the public doesn't. I hear a lot of times they say just sell, you know, let the private sector take over. What's the private sector? Well, one thing I learned when I got in office, which everyone, you know, dollar stores. I hate dollar stores. I don't want them. Well, okay, it's not the who, it's the what. And as an elected official, all I can do is change the zoning. And when I change the zoning, anything that fits within that zoning can go there. And I don't get to discriminate. I don't say, I don't want you, but I'll take you.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. So by keeping Four Freedoms and keeping the golf course in our possession, actually gives us the ability to say what we want there. And which is why I will not be for ever giving that up, because as a private partner, you know, public partnership, we have to have that public piece, or else, you know, we wouldn't be able to determine what goes there. Same with the golf course. If you sell it, if we sell it to a private developer, they could put homes, they could put, and now we zone it, and that's probably been most of the problem with that, is we've really narrowed that in, what can be there. But hopefully we're going to have a fix for that. I'm hoping the county will be able to step in and help us with that. But you know, something else, real quick, if you don't mind, we've always had a past of not getting along with the county, doing things with the county. But what I'm finding is, while yes, there's personality differences and whatnot, Cape Coral hasn't necessarily done a great job of telling them what our needs are.
Right.
And putting them in a meaningful way, like our 5-year CIP and things like that, that they can say, I know you're serious about these projects. We just kind of like have, you know, hey, will you give us some money for this? Will you give us? That isn't how it works. And so this next upcoming budget cycle, I'm hoping that we end up really showcasing all of how we have it together now and the needs that we have for the community and what we need from them. So. And
I've noticed too, I don't mean to interrupt, that you do have, the council does now, a really good relationship with the county commission. It's getting better.
Yeah, it's not
really great, but yeah, definitely working on that.
I don't have an issue with any of them. I think if told them enough information, if given what we need, and having that open dialogue, as long as that happens, I think they've been very, very good working with us. So it's when you start shutting down and you start playing games and things that I think that's where you kind of have the, you know, I go to my side, you go to yours. I know we've said in the past things like, you know, beat them over the head with a baseball bat. Well, that, you know, not that I need everyone to sing Kumbaya, but that just is not how relationships work.
Right.
I mean, you do business with people that you like.
Right.
And hopefully over the next couple of years, it'll get better. But right now, Commissioner Kiker, Commissioner Hammond, and Manning have been great. I don't work much with and Cecil, but the rest, I mean, in my interactions with them, I do meet with them monthly, so, and they've always seen me, so it's been good.
Thank you so much for
coming.
No, thank you for having me. That was really fun.
It was.
I can't believe it was fun.
Yeah. Fun interviews on Coffee and Bacon.
Yeah.
And we have delicious bacon here, and that was provided today by the Southwest Florida AFL-CIO.
Cool.
And we got it at a great Cuban restaurant over in Cape Coral, Azucar, and we should definitely go there more often because it's delicious.
Yeah.
And,
I'm working that fit to Cape, so thank you for
very
providing
good.
bacon for my diet. But it looks delicious and it smells wonderful.
Okay. But thank you for being here. So, what are you doing over there? Are you reading your emails?
I am actually reading the Lehigh Gazette.
Oh, well, look at you. Isn't that great? Wasn't Marni wonderful?
She was terrific.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on over in Cape Coral right now. It's just amazing that she had the time to come here. Couple announcements. This week, BUPAC is meeting at FSW, and they're going to have Bill Hammond on. He's going to talk about 2020. It's open to the public. It starts at 7 for breakfast, 7:30 the meeting, and it's over at 8:30, so it's just an hour of your day. So come on out and hear what he's got to say about 2020.
And next week on the show, we'll have Michael Drycorn. He'll be talking about King's Ranch.
That ought to be exciting. We love Michael. We want to thank that Southwest Florida AFL-CIO for providing coffee and bacon. We'd like to thank the Waggle, the Art Loft, and so many wonderful people that have come out to help us put this show together, and thank you for watching. And we're Coffee and Bacon. We'll see you Monday.